All flour's the same, right? It's white, it's powdery, and it's guaranteed to get you stopped at an airport if you're carrying a little bag of it, regardless of the brand. Apparently, this one is the holy grail of pizza making. It's from Naples, it's got history, and it's probably served at the Vatican. Whereas this one is from Tesco's. You find it next to the dried fruit, and the only history it's got is from being in your nan's cupboard. We're gonna put these two to the test and see if I can make a decent pizza using supermarket flour compared to this champ. So before we jump in, this is the flour I use every week for my pizza business. I rely on it, I know it's got good results. It's Italian, it's got that Italian accent to it, it's got this guy. You know, I just feel comfortable using it. But I've always thought, how much of a difference is it? So when we look at this, it's Alison's. I don't know who Alison is, but apparently they've been expert millers since 1892. Caputo, 1924. It's a bit of a gap. And this has got bold claims all over it. Pizza, pizza. Apparently, perfect for pizzas. We'll be the judge of that. I am a professional, I promise. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna compare these guys. We're gonna look at the smell, texture, taste, mixing, everything that's relevant. We're not gonna go into too much detail on the protein and stuff because who actually looks at that? Put your hands up if you care about the protein in the flour. 4 of you. I know it's important. I do know it's important, but you wanna pick up a flour and you wanna use it for a pizza. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's get them out and compare how they look straight away. All right, quick visual sensory comparison. Oh, and fun fact, if you're looking at price per kilogram, this is actually more expensive. Alison is charging more than the pizza gods. This works out about £1.95 a kilogram. This works out about £1.26 a kilogram when you're buying it in this size. But just a little fun fact, I'm not throwing shade on either of them, but already this is more expensive, so it better back up those claims with some results. So looking at these, yes, the Caputo is a 0-0, so it's gonna be finer, and it feels like talcum powder, it's so fine. Alison's doesn't actually feel that much different. Color, they're exactly the same. Smell, Alison smells like nothing. And I do get a wheaty smell off the Caputo, so that may be more flavour in the final bake. I don't know yet at this point, but I'm just doing a visual comparison. It's not white, so that means it's probably not bleached, which is good. Aroma, not getting much. So at this stage, there's not a lot between them. This smells a bit more wheaty, which is a good indication on taste in the final product, but texture-wise, not much different. I think if you're buying them per kilogram, you could actually be getting more for your money with a Caputo. So what's the plan here? We're gonna mix these for exactly the same amount of time, use exactly the same recipe, which is the recipe I use every week. And if you're interested in that, because of science, 331 grams of flour, 209 grams of water, 9 grams of salt, and 0.2 grams of yeast. And it's a room temperature ferment overnight, and we're keeping them exactly the same because of science. I'm gonna be mixing these in my KitchenAid mixer with a dough hook attached, and I'm doing that again for science because A, I don't want to be kneading it, and B, it will keep the results as similar as possible. So let's mix them up and see how they come out texture-wise. All right, the method we're using to mix this, just out of interest and for science purposes, and if you want to replicate either of these pizzas, is we're mixing until flour and water are combined. Just mixing, it doesn't need to be smooth, but a shaggy dough will do. And then we do something called an autolyse, which is we let them sit for about 20 minutes. And that lets the gluten build up naturally and the flour absorbs all of the moisture without you having to do much work. So mix until combined, about 3 minutes. Autolyse for 20 minutes, and then we're gonna mix for 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes. And we're gonna do that with both of them. There's enough for 2 dough balls in there. We're gonna let them bulk together, and then we're gonna ball them up in the morning, let them relax, and then test the pizza. So it's all very technical and science-based and professional because that's how we roll. So let's get on with the mixing. All right, so I've mixed Alison and here she is. And to be fair, I'm pretty surprised with the texture that's come out. We've got a real nice, soft, I mean, I would even say window pane. We've got a bit of a window pane going on, which is really surprising. What I am noticing, I don't know if you can see it, is we've got almost like a bran in the flower. It's got some little dots of colour, like different browns, which is interesting to start with. And to be fair, this is better than I thought it would be already. So I'm just autolising the Caputo at the moment and we'll do a comparison at this stage. All right, same test here with the Caputo. Now, I do feel a difference. This one feels even more silky, like an Italian yoga instructor on a summer's day. But this, as you can see, there's not as much noticeable grain in there. It's more a consistent colour. This feels really pliable. It's given me the window pane test with no issues at all. Now the window pane test, if you don't know, is where you mix your dough enough to stretch it and see light through it. If it passes that test without tearing, you've got a dough that's mixed enough and it's got enough gluten in there to hold air. So when you're mixing your dough, just keep testing that window pane to see if you can see light through it, and if you can, you're golden. If you can't, keep mixing. Yeah, at the moment, this is slightly silkier. It is bouncing back. So let's give them a good comparison. So we're all mixed up and we've got our dough balls. We've got enough for 2 of each. So firstly, we've got Alison's. Now you can see, I haven't got much spring back on the dough. It is relaxed. Window pane test. Brilliant. But what I am seeing is these different coloured brands in there, which might mean that it's some sort of mixture of different flours. One interesting thing is it is British flour, which might mean it's a bit more stubborn, a bit uptight. You know what Britons are like. They don't like softening up, so it might be a bit stubborn. But to be fair, I've got a pretty good flexible dough here. It just feels a bit tighter. So Alison in there, this, it feels more velvety and it's softening up so fast. Window pane, obviously, instantly. We've got a really good window pane test there. And again, the colour of it, I mean, look, if I get both of them together and then pick up, see how elastic that is already, and that is just stubborn British flour. Italian yoga teacher, stubborn British flour. By feeling them both together, this one's like really pliable. This one's tight. So we're gonna prove these overnight, and in the morning, we're gonna separate them into halves, ball them up and see what they're like at that stage. And then we're gonna get them into the oven and do the ultimate side-by-side test. Good morning, and this competition is hotting up. I did not expect to come down and see them looking so similar. We've got the red corner, we've got Caputo. If he was a human, he'd be riding a Vespa, wearing sunglasses indoors, with trousers a little bit too short. He'd take my wife and I'd still admire him for it. And in the blue corner, we've got Alison. Alison's, but it's Alison. She's having breakfast in Wetherspoons. She's wearing a wolf fleece and she's talking about the deals that she got at the middle at Lidl. But she's still up for a fight. Let's get them out, ball up, and see if they're still both up to the task. Okay. Nice rise, doubled in size. One thing I'm noticing still is the colour of the flour. It's not got much speckle into it. Now I did some research overnight, and that's basically because it's more refined, whereas when it's got the brown speckles in it, it isn't sieved as much, and that's probably because it's not a 0-0. So we'll see how that comes out in the final bake, because that could get some really interesting results. But here we have what I'm used to, and I'm just gonna, because I know it's 2 dough balls, I'm gonna half it right down the middle. Now when I'm balling up, there's 2 ways that you can do it. You can do the hands on the table, just keep the top on the top and keep rolling it towards yourself, and then the old ice cream cone. And then just make sure to seal underneath, because if you don't seal this, you're gonna have holes or a really thin middle to your pizza. A little bit of an air test. Sounds hollow, so it's got air in it. This is what I'm used to. Feels no different. This is where it's gonna get interesting. And if it's interesting now, it's gonna be really interesting on the final bake, which we're gonna do in just a second. I'd be really interested to see if you guys have used any sort of different flours, or if you started off with a home flour, or if you're a home baker and you make pizzas at home, what flour do you use? It'd be really interesting to see in the comments if there are any other different flours out there that perform just as well, or if Caputo is just a brand that everyone looks at and they've just done a really good job at marketing. So it's feeling a bit tackier. That's my first observation. Let's half it. So I'll do the same again, I'll do the table. Yeah, it's definitely tackier. This is a 63% hydration, so I've made it quite low to be able to work it. And because it's not quite fair to go in at a high hydration when it's not designed for that sort of hydration. Yeah, see what I'm noticing here, you can probably see it. We've got some tears in the dough. It's not quite stretching as strong as I'd be used to at this point, but let's see if I can get it there. Okay, it's definitely tacky. Okay, we're getting there. Alison's not going down without a fight. She's got a Greggs sausage roll and she's fighting off those seagulls. To be totally fair, it's not bad. It feels wetter, it's definitely tackier. I've got all of this on my hands and I can't get it to a point where I'd naturally put the Caputo ball down. But that's pretty good, there's no tearing in the top. It's balled, I don't want to overwork it, so I'm gonna leave it there and put it back to relax. We're gonna let these relax for a couple of hours and then do the ultimate showdown. We're gonna put them to the test in the Univolt and see the results. So the dough has rested now for a couple of hours and it's in its balled up state, it's relaxed, it's ready to go. Alison's a bit fiery, but that's normal, it's British. So it's like they're in the changing rooms before the big fight. The ring, the Univolt, and you guys have got front row seats. What we're gonna do, we're gonna cook the Caputo first to see our baseline, and then see how Alison can match up to that style of pizza. We're using supermarket tomatoes, we're using a Muti Pulpa. It's a really popular, commonly used sauce for using on pizzas that everyone can get hold of. And we're using just supermarket style pizza mozzarella. It's the dry stuff. So I'm keeping it really simple because I'm curious to see the quality of the pizza I can make with just using supermarket ingredients. So let's get into it.
I gotta cut to the chase. Everyone give me some space. Don't fall out, we fall into place. Every step walking with grace, amen. Keeping my foot off the brakes. Impact, I'm ready to brace. We fall down and land on our face. Just to get up and finally escape. Wait, boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in a grave. They live through the story they made, okay? Boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in a grave. Hey, legends don't die anyway. I was working on a play today. Body bags covered away. I paved, zipped up like a bathing ape. How many of us then came and stayed? Not too many. I've been staying awake to get it and get right on every mistake. I give them a bite, they taking a plate. It's all been a feeling that I couldn't shake. So I just keep killing till I'm at the gates. We straight, we treat them like worms in a lake. They bake, just give me a drum and a bass. I skate and grind till I'm numb in the face, okay? Don't fuck up my day. Don't talk about clutch, I got ice in my veins. I'm colder than Trey, I stick to the code. I'm glitching the game. I do anything for the win at the end of of the day. I gotta cut to the chase. Everyone give me some space. Don't fall out, we fall into place. Every step walking with grace, amen. Keeping my foot off the brakes. Impact, I'm ready to brace. We fall down and land on our face. Just to get up and finally escape. Wait. Boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in a grave. They live through the story they made, okay? Boom.
Right, the verdict is in. Seconds out. We're all done. And to be fair, it went to the judges. There was no knockout. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Caputo. What would we expect? A lovely looking pizza. It's got a nice crust. Chewy in the middle, crispy on the outside. Lovely colour. We're gonna cut into the crust. We've got a nice bubbly structure. It's a good bit of pizza. Taste wise, yeah, it's nutty, it's deep, you've got the wheaty taste, it's got the nice colour on the crust. This is what we expect, this is what I cook every week. Here's the shocker. Alison's. Apart from this, which was an air bubble, I should have pinched that before it went in the oven, but I didn't see it. But that's not a bad looking pizza, tell me if I'm wrong. It's not as crispy on the crust. It's quite soft. Let's do the cut test. Okay, it's definitely not got the right structure. We've got an insanely airy crust. It does travel down like an aeroplane wing. It's traveling down that crust, which isn't what we want to look for. I'll compare it to the Caputo. So Caputo, this one feels a lot stronger than this. This is so floppy. This stays like that. This is almost flopping right over. So, I mean, that's just picky. Let's give it a taste. Totally different. That tastes totally different. So with the Alison's, there's not much taste at all. It's almost like a white bread. I know it's strong white bread flour, but if anything, it's got more bran in it and other parts that would give it flavour. It just hasn't got that flavour, but I'm not saying that's something that can't be fixed. You could add a bit more salt, you could add diastatic malt powder to give it a malty taste. You could add things to make this really good. Maybe that's what I do. I try and make the best homemade pizza you can. So look out for that coming up. See, this is so doughy here. It looks good, but it's just doughy. It's not light, it's stodgy. All in all, if you're making a homemade pizza, if you can get the Caputo, because I think they'd work out the same price. Yes, I buy mine in bulk, and you might not be able to, but if you can get hold of Caputo, use it. If you've just got supermarket flour, you can make a decent tasting pizza with the same recipe and the same method. So that's actually really interesting. I think what I'll do in the future is see how good I can get this. See if I can get it. So I'll do a blind taste test and no one can tell the difference between this and this. That would be really interesting. So if you've made it all the way to the end of the video, I really appreciate you guys watching. Please like and subscribe. And if you know anyone that would want to watch this video, just send it over to them. It helps the channel massively. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.